You're welcome to this next session here at Jobs Expo. And our next speaker is a man, I've actually got to see him speak before, and I promise you're in for a real treat. I suspect you'll be taking notes at about a mile a minute at the rate this man speaks, but he has some fascinating insights, really good learnings to take away from this. He's from 2upskill.com, which I think you can probably see behind me. Yeah, 2upskill.com. He's a great man. Hopefully we'll have time for a little bit of a Q&A at the end. I know he's doing sessions outside as well. I've seen you during the earlier part of the day. And he's talking about essential principles for success. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love if you give him a lovely round of applause. It's Charlie Mernagh.
Just leave that up there, I think, yeah. So anyway, as just mentioned, my name is Charlie Mernagh, and what I'm going to talk about here is something that I would have lived with for most of my career. So just to give you a little bit about my background, I suppose, and then it will lead into where we're going here. So I would have spent over 30 years in the insurance industry, and the founder of the company that I worked with, W. Clement Stone, he bought himself and Napoleon Hill. They worked together on a project. And the project was actually to try and figure out what successful entrepreneurs are all about and what principles that they use to get to where they are. So it's not a bad starting point, especially if you want to get to the next stage of your own career. So this is what they found, and this was a 20-year project that they worked on, by the way. So it's only quite a few years later they added the 17th one on. So they did come up with 16. And this is what the entrepreneurs said that they felt were the necessary the necessary ingredients that you need in order to be successful in life. And when I go through them, you'll probably see that it's absolutely 110% true. So we're going to talk about the 17 success principles. This session would normally take 3/4 of a day. I don't have that. I've got 30 minutes. So bear with me, all right? So just a little bit about the man himself, Napoleon Hill. It's not so many years ago since this man died, actually, but he would have been advisor to about 3 presidents in his lifetime. And he's written quite a number of books. Probably worth your while to get your hands on him. You could buy him second hand now, so you could get him quite cheap. But the big one really was Think and Grow Rich. He had written that book. He couldn't come up with a name. It took him quite a long time to come up with it until his publisher said to him, for God's sake, you need to come up with a name and I want you to have it for me by tomorrow. Otherwise, that book is not going to get published. And that's what he came up with. And this ended up being one of his best sellers. This got him really off the platform. Another book then later on, The Law of Success. So they're just 2 of the key books that this man would have written, all right? This session here is based on another book, but it wasn't him that wrote it on his own. It was a joint publication between himself and W. Clement Stone. And they called that book The 17 Success Principles, for obvious reasons. That's what we're going through now, okay? So let's go through them. So the first principle here, just to qualify this one, by the way, talking about the 2 guys again, Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. So if you want to take note of those names and Google those names, you'll find a lot of very good information, because a lot of the motivational talks you'll hear nowadays, most of those talks and the ingredients will come from the research that both of these guys would have done. As I said, I was lucky enough to grow up in a company that one of them owned. So we had to know all of this by heart, and obviously not only know it, but live by it as well. But they had a little bit of an argument between the 2 of them. Which principle should be number 1? W. Clement Stone said, a positive mental attitude, if you want to write it down, should be number 1. And Napoleon Hill said, a definite purpose should be number 1. So at the end of the talk, I'm going to throw it back out to you and going to ask you, which principle do you think should be number 1? All right? So we're going to start off in the way they're lined up here anyway. First and foremost, if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to be absolutely definite about what you want. And I would have been talking to a lot of people outside here today, and just asking people, what exactly do you want? Can you describe that for me in detail? What is it? The majority of people cannot do that. So that means if you can't do that, you can't even get off the starting block. Do you follow me now? And most people are afraid to do it because they're afraid they might fail. But you're more likely to fail if you don't have a definite purpose anyway. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So that's principle number one. Write down exactly what you want to achieve, and then ask yourself the question, the next question underneath that should be, am I willing to pay the price? Because when the answer to that, you probably won't go any further. I'll give you an example. In my own case, back when I was 45 years of age, I decided I would take a new course in my life. And I'll tell you the reason it came about. I was over in a beautiful sunny spot, staying in a fabulous 5-star hotel that I wasn't paying for, and I picked up an award for 25 years service to the company, you see. My good wife was sitting beside me when I came down to the table, and her words to me, lovely hotel, fabulous food, lovely surrounding, and she says to me, what have you got to show for it? Okay. I was like, well, I said, we're in a lovely hotel here. But she said, you need more than that. And there was no more said after that, really, but I got thinking about it. I said, really, what do I have to show after 25 years? So I set a 5-year plan for myself, and that's what I did. But I had to ask myself the question, am I willing to pay the price to get there? And to get there, I had to actually go and do 2 different degrees in order to get what I needed to achieve. And if I answered no to that question, am I willing to go studying again at 45 years of age, for God's sake, then I wasn't going to go anywhere. I did, and I enjoyed it. And that got me to where I am today, actually, when you think about it. So there you go. So you can make that change. So that's the definite purpose. A Mastermind Alliance. Now I have to quickly go through the rest of them here right away, okay? So the Mastermind Alliance, what that is, it's a team of people around you, and it could be just one other person, by the way, who's on the same wavelength as you. I got a person by the name of Mick O'Connell on my corner, and he was my Mastermind Alliance. So when I needed to bounce something off somebody, all I had to do was pick the phone up or get him out for a game of golf, Mick, and say, Mick, what do we do here? And he was my Mastermind Alliance. So one other person can be your Mastermind Alliance. Is that fair enough? And it's got to be somebody on the same page as you, and somebody that will give you sound advice. Preferably somebody who's already been where you want to be. That kind of makes sense, because they know what the journey is like to get there. The next one then would be applied faith. I don't have to explain that much, really, do I? Because if you don't have faith in what you're doing, if you say to yourself, I'm not willing to pay the price, then you don't have faith in your own ability to get there. So you really do have to have that faith, and you've got to apply it, especially when the walls come up against you and you need to break the walls down. That's applied faith, isn't it, when you think about it? Going the extra mile. That's another one where people get they kind of get out of the space. Well, you might have to work 7 days a week for this. You might have to work 10 hours a day for this. You might have to work for menial income to start with in order to get here. Oh, do I really want that? So if you're not willing to go the extra mile, well then, and going the extra mile means that you're actually doing more than you're getting paid for. That's the principle behind it, okay? So you could be on a good wage, but you're actually doing more than what your wages are actually paying you. Okay with that? Just give back to others what you're actually getting off others yourself. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself could be another way of approaching that. A pleasing personality. Well, you can work on that if you feel your personality is not where it needs to be. But if I'm talking to you and all you're simply talking about are all the barriers that are in front of you, the government are wrong, everyone else around is wrong, everyone is wrong, but you know what, that's not a very pleasing personality. I wouldn't be in that conversation for too long, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, so surround yourself with positive, enthusiastic people, and that way, some of that should rub off on you, okay? But be enthusiastic yourself. Be solution-driven rather than problem-driven. So if you got a problem, the way you should handle that is say, well, there's 2 solutions to every problem. So there's the problem. Fair enough, I can't open the door. The door just won't open. So what are the solutions? Well, one solution could be to get a key to open it. All right? And the other solution, if that doesn't work, is maybe get an engineer to open the door for you. There's your 2 solutions. Try them out and see what happens. Instead of focusing on, I can't get in there because the door's closed. Okay? There's no such thing as can't. You got to knock the T off that. You can do it, but you have to be solution rather than problem driven. That's the ingredient for a pleasing personality, by the way. Personal initiative. What I call that is get up and go. All right? So when the clock goes off in the morning at 5 o'clock, get out of bed, jump out with enthusiasm, and have that get up and go attitude. That's what you call personal initiative. Don't wait for somebody to do it for you. Go and do it yourself. If you need help, go and get a Mastermind alliance around you. There's people out there that definitely will help you. Your best friend could be one of those, for heaven's sake. But have that personal initiative. Have that get up and go. Demonstrate that to the people that you're working with as well. Say, for example, if you're working hospitality, which I did for some time, be willing to clean the toilets, be willing to go into the wash-up, be willing to sort the bottles, be willing to sweep up the floor, even though you are the general manager, okay? But have that willingness to actually roll your sleeves up and do the job that you're not paid for, okay? That would be personal initiative in my books anyway, most definitely, all right? A positive mental attitude, here we go. You can see where they have placed it, by the way. These two guys that came to put this together are now dead and gone. So the guys that have followed actually have put this down as number 7. Personally, I don't think it should be there, but that's going to be your decision afterwards, okay? See where you want it placed. But that's having the right mental attitude in any given situation, provided it doesn't violate the laws of God and man. Does that make sense? Okay? It's just having the right attitude, a positive attitude. It's having the can-do type of an attitude rather than the can't-do type of an attitude. Okay? Enthusiasm. There's an old saying about enthusiasm, by the way, that's actually like a forest fire. Once it actually catches fire, it's very difficult to put it out. So somebody walked into this room here now, oozing with enthusiasm. Would you pay attention? I can guarantee you would. Okay? And that's a fact. If you look at, say, some of the celebrities that are on television and that, say, I'd be old enough to remember Gay Byrne, but I mean, like, when he came out onto the stage, as it was then on the television, he used to actually get the audience so wound up that they just couldn't stop smiling for the whole show, okay? So that's really instilling enthusiasm into the audience that he was addressing, and that's what they do, okay? So enthusiasm, just remember, it's like a forest fire. Once it catches, it's very difficult to put it out. So if you're lacking enthusiasm, I'd say do something about it. And by the way, just on enthusiasm, you can't get someone to get you enthusiastic. I can sow the seed, do you follow? But it's up to you then to reap the harvest. And that's the enthusiasm part. I can do it for a very short time. I can get you standing up here now and dancing around the place, and you'll feel great after it. But a half an hour later, you'd wonder what's gone wrong with you. Okay. But it's something, you see, you got to reap the harvest. Someone will sow the seed, but it's up to you to do the rest. Self-discipline. So self-discipline calls for balance of emotions of your heart with the reasoning faculty of your head. In plain language, so what that means really is face the facts. If this is going to be a tough task to go after, face up to it. It's going to be tough. You're going to work 60 hours a week for it. That's a fact. That's self-discipline then, that you're going to put in that effort to make it happen, okay? And that if you're going to promise, I'm going to deliver on this, and I'll have this done within 6 months, kind of sounds like someone across the water there, doesn't it? Okay. And I'm going to make it happen, all right? So long as it doesn't actually crucify everyone along the path, well then, that's self-discipline. That you've got the discipline to see it through to the very end. That you're not going to quit halfway through. Accurate thinking, okay? Accurate thinking really is try and weigh up. And this one can be tough, by the way. And you might say this is a tough statement they're going to make as well. And it is a tough statement. The person actually that can put you off track is your nearest and dearest. That can be the case. And what you've got to do, you see, you've got to have some accurate thinking on this one. So if your best friend and your nearest and dearest says to you, that's too high a risk, well, you've got to get the balanced thinking on that one, don't you? That's why you talk, that's why the Mastermind Alliance is there. You talk to someone who's already been on this journey. That's called accurate thinking. You're weighing now the two of them up. One person says you can't do it, who's never done it before. The other person is saying you can do it, and I have done it before. I spoke to a guy by the name of Bart Allen. He was the founder of, he's the guy actually that built all the Bewley's Hotel Group. I'm sure they're all gone now, but the hotels are still there, just a different brand on them. He sold them off for a fortune. But I asked him, A simple question. How do you become successful? And an hour later, actually, I was still listening to him. Okay? But you know what's a very interesting conversation? And he just summed it up. He said, we take risks, but we don't just take risks. We take what's called calculated risks. So accurate thinking is very balanced in their mind. Okay? They weigh up the odds. What's the worst thing that can happen if it goes wrong? And what's the best thing that can happen if it goes right? And have I got the necessary tools of the trade in order to see it through to the bitter end? That's accurate thinking. Okay? Controlled attention. Keep your mind on the things you want and off the things you don't want. Because along this journey here, you're going to get negative. You're going to feel, oh God almighty, this is really starting to fall apart for me. The money is drying up. This has gone wrong. That's gone wrong. Controlled attention means keep your mind on what you said you were going to do in the first place. And keep it off the things that can go wrong. Because it's amazing, really. Be careful what you think about, because the chances are what you're actually thinking about at that moment will possibly come true. All right? So if you think it's going to be a success, well, doesn't that make a lot more sense than you thinking this is going to be a failure and you haven't even got there yet. All right? There is a little story about that one, and it was to do with a miner. And this is a true story. This miner, he was digging for gold. The veins ran out. He had very expensive equipment, and he felt the game is over. So he sold his equipment to a scrap dealer. The scrap dealer had no experience whatsoever in mining, but you know what? A bit like Henry Ford, even though he didn't have the experience, Henry Ford was not an experienced man in building cars, but he had a team around him who were. So what this guy did, he went to the experts, and he said, would you do a test on this mine for me? I just have to get in a whole lot of equipment here, and I don't know what to do with it. Okay. So he got the test on it, and 2 feet away from where this guy gave up was the biggest vein of them all. And that man obviously overnight became a multi-billionaire, okay? Just as a result of obviously controlled attention. The other guy didn't have it, but your man did. He wanted to obviously do something with the equipment he had. Teamwork. Well, no man or woman is an island, would that be fair? So you can't do it on your own. So you need a team around you. If it's only one other person, it's still a team. Now, don't make the mistake. Having teamwork is not having a mastermind alliance. The mastermind alliance is a different beast altogether. That's someone you're bouncing ideas off. That's someone that's giving you the right advice. Teamwork is someone that's helping you achieve it. Maybe keeping you motivated when you're feeling down on yourself. That's a bit of teamwork, okay? Have someone in your corner. And they don't have to be experts, by the way. They just have to be in the right frame of mind. All right? Adversity and defeat. I think we know about this one, but just in case. Defeat means I have yet to see anybody succeed in life without failing at least once. Okay? And the person with the right frame of mind should say, well, okay, if I do fail at this one, so what? I'm after learning from the mistakes, I'll brush myself down, and I'm going to rebuild again. That happened quite a lot over the last number of years, especially after the Celtic Tiger went bust. So many people actually were out of work after that. Some people were in the building trade, whatever they were in. But you hear lots of success stories now where Builder Joe is now Confectionery Joe. And he's running a big operation in such and such a town, wherever that might be, and he'd never even baked a loaf of bread before that. But now what they've done, they've learned from defeat. So learn from defeat. The game is not over with defeat. It just means it's another stepping stone that you've got to get over. Does it make sense? Creative vision. Well, obviously creative vision means that you're seeing something that's not there. You're creating something out of nothing. And that's really, I suppose, the Celtic Tiger was a living proof of that, where people have created, like there's a young lad of 19 years of age there now at the moment, and he's after getting 3 million from an angel to obviously as funding towards building his business. He's after coming up with something here that nobody could imagine people would come up with. And it's just a little piece of software that protects people's private information, and they don't even know it's there. And now he'll be in Silicon Valley before we know where we are, and he's only 19 years of age. That's creative vision when you think about it, isn't it? You don't have to be a Silicon Valley person, but you can actually see things that are not there and visualize that. and then do something with it. All right? Turn it into something. Health, well, it's not just health, by the way, jogging, because obviously I'm not out jogging every day in the week, so it's not just that, but you've got to have a healthy mind. Keep your mind healthy. So that means keep your mind off the negatives and keep your mind on the positives. Keep your mind on the things you can do rather than the things you can't do. That's keeping a healthy mind. So healthy mind, healthy body, the two of those together, you can't go too far wrong. I didn't come up with these, by the way. The entrepreneurs and the big boys came up with these, so this is what they felt were the principles. Budgeting your time and money. Well, that part of that conversation with Bert Allen, by the way, was that part there. Okay? Because in order for him to do what he did, because he built a chain of hotels, and he'd never been in the hotel industry before. That guy came from a meat factory down in Enniscorthy, in actual fact. And when I asked him about that, I said, you've never been in that field before, so why did you go into it? And here's the answer he gave me. We're not too far away from it here, by the way, because it's only over Newlands Cross. That was the first one he built. Well, he said there's a hotel just down there at the Red Cow. Not the Red Cow Hotel, but the other one, the Ibis. And he said that they had their eye on that site. And he said if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. How about that? Okay? And that's a true story, by the way. He'd never been into hotel work before. He had an idea in his head. He was a visionary. He could visualize exactly what he wanted, but he couldn't do it with an existing stock, which like an existing hotel, because they already had a model, you see. So what he had to do, he had to build it from scratch, the whole model that he had. And the model he ended up building, by the way, was the same price for the room, 365 days in the year. If some of you are old enough to remember, it was about £89 or €89 or something like that. It was in the 80s anyway. And whether it's a match day or whatever it was exactly the same price. And that was the model he wanted to put out there. The restaurant was separate from the reception. The bar was separate from the reception. So the reception was literally just for people booking into the rooms. And he was letting out the other part of the stock. And that meant he was making money even if there was nobody in the beds. Okay, so that's only a short version of what he did, by the way. But it is interesting, but he did budget his time and money. Take the old habit, get rid of it if it's not working for you, of course. Build on the new habit, and then hone it and perfect it. Okay, so in summary, there's 3 things you need to start right now. Stop complaining, all right? If you want a positive mental attitude, you don't want to be, what would you say, branded as a complainer. Have a completion weekend to clear your slate of all the unfinished business that you currently have. Get it all off the desk and start fresh, okay? Clear the desk. And then you can die from negative thoughts, so you're going to die anyway, so you might as well die with positive thoughts. Does that make sense? All right? So be ready to take the first step towards claiming the life that you deserve, so let's do it now. Okay with that? Any questions? How do you relax? In my own case, how do I relax? I do walk, you mightn't think that, but I do, okay? I actually, one thing I like doing, maybe it doesn't sound like relaxing, but I run a business, I run a training company. I like learning new things. That's what I do for relaxation. So I use YouTube quite a lot just to learn things. Like I'm building landing pages for my own website. I do that to relax. I enjoy that. That's a new skill. Now come on, I'm over 60 years of age. So I had to learn these skills, but I have learned them and I've honed them. And I'm doing quite well on them, in fairness. So it is one way that I would relax, yeah? And obviously then I have 3 sons as well and I have grandkids, so they kind of help. Well, I'm not sure if the grandkids will help you relax, but anyway, that's debatable. But anyway, they're good fun to be around. So of course I'd relax there as well without any shadow of a doubt, okay? Any other questions? Going? Gone? Okay?
I think you've bamboozled us. You've just flooded us with all the information that we need. Because I got to see Charlie, I think it was about a year ago.
Yeah.
And this is as engaging now as it was then. And you know, it's funny, when I saw you the last time as well, I made a few notes and sort of did my own bits and pieces, and I'll be doing the same again. I'm sure, did you all get a lot from that? 17 is a lot of points to take in, but I know that you take clients to upskill.com or .ie, which one are you? You're right there, .com,
yeah.
okay.
Upskill.com, yeah.
And interesting that you had the book. I'm fascinated that the books you reference are so old? Because are they 1800s or?
No, they're not that old. No.
Are they not? You said that your man was.
Napoleon Hill died in the late 60s, actually.
Oh, well, look.
So he
I can claim it on never doing history properly in school.
No, but Think and Grow Rich, like that, it isn't a new book, by the way. It would have been written somewhere around the 50s, I think, if I remember rightly. But that book is still selling and still selling very well out there.
It's probably every time you give a talk, there's probably a surge of sales on it.
But
on
business people use it quite a lot
Yeah.
because it is based on the necessary principles you have to have in order to be successful in business. And
you recommend doing them in the order and then going back, as you say, and kind of honing.
Just reminded me, actually. Yeah. Right then, so definite of purpose was number 1 on this talk here.
Oh, yeah.
And a positive mental attitude was number 5 in this talk here. Where do you think positive mental attitude should be? Now think about everything else that has to happen afterwards, okay? Where do you think it should be? Hands up who said it should be number 1. Hands up who says it should be number 2.
Oh, interesting. What do you think?
Number
or is
1.
it just a personal kind of a...
Well, that's the interesting thing. You see, the guy that I worked for, and he was 102 when he died, W. Clement Stone, he said that a positive mental attitude should definitely be number 1, because if you didn't have the right mental attitude, there was no way in the whole earthly world you were ever going to come up with a definite purpose. Kind of makes sense. That's why I say positive mental attitude. If you have the right attitude, you see, you can then focus on the things you want. Because if you're in the wrong frame of mind, come on, we've all been there, it's very difficult to actually have a clear mind of where you want to go, because that negativity is blocking you out.
I suppose it's important though as well to kind of remove yourself from all the busyness to try and decide what your focus is going to be, isn't it? Because I know you're at the stage now where you're here, you're talking about it, you've grandkids, you've kids, you're busy. But I don't know, do people feel that they need to nearly put down the phone for a couple of minutes and just to give their brain a rest so they can really think about what it is they might like to do? It's
interesting you should say that, by the way, because W. Clement Stone did say, and he instructed us to do it, by the way, in the company, is to lock yourself away in a room on your own, and the purpose of it is for study, thinking and planning time. Have nothing else in that room, only a pen and a piece of paper. Okay? And funny enough, actually, when I was a young lad growing up in that business, I did do that. And that pen and piece of paper worked a treat, because it actually solved a lot of problems for me by just having the room and nothing else in there, only me, the pen and the piece of paper.
No laptops, no tablets, no phones distracting, no Googling, no music playing in the background.
Well, we didn't have any mobile phones.
We didn't have mobile phones, okay. That's really good though.
Yeah, it is though. That's what he said, like take study, thinking and planning time.
Right.
Remove yourself away from your hectic activity and do it for 1 hour every week. That's all. Just 1 hour is all he said.
And the only thing is, you've us all riled up now, all focused on our 17 principles, and it's a Saturday evening and we want to relax and kick back, but maybe the energy levels you've created will keep us going until Monday and we'll really kick things off then. Or would you suggest we just work on it all weekend?
I'd say you should work on it all the weekend.
Work on it all. Here we heard what the man said. Right, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Last call for a question, if anyone. He's outside all the time as well. Okay, look, we'll call it quits there for now. Charlie, thank you so much. Can we give him a massive round of applause,
thanks
please?
For that. Fair play.